Sojourn by Robert P.Fitton, Part 3, The Awaited One. He was the Vargat Emnus, with the sole destiny of destroying the Tabun Shah. Inside the Azakar, he asked Huta when they'll reach Mantari Earth. Tark's signal may have originated from another location. They prepare battle images. There are 5,250 vessels. Sard wants 6,000 vessels before he reaches Mantari Earth. Sard must be prepared for the final battle with Tabun Shah, according to the aging Anka. Battle Azakars will be simulated, and Sard will be ready for the Tabun Shah. Sard will arrive on Mantari Earth unnoticed and destroy their Urkum. Over the Aragos's rusty hull, battle images are shown. He lowers the outside ramp. Sard is anonymous in the simulated battles. He needs perfection against the Tabun Shah. He thinks about floating his amperage through the passageway once he gets to Mantari Earth. Sard longs to see his brother, Tark. He joins the simulated battle. The displays show inferior positions on the ridges and sunken bunkers. He uses his early instruction as a Creod to attack the bunkers. He kills 62 Mantari in the simulated attack. His fangs are out the entire time. Sard then challenges the Proaskas, giving orders. They don't know that it's Sard. His upper lip quivers. He threatens them with punishment. Sard informs the Proaskas that they must attack the Pequa flow, the energy. Attack the enemy positions on the hill and maintain distance for your own protection. Sard goes into the middle of battle. The Proaska scolds him, and after the simulations are done, he sends the Proaska into the torturing Yestic fields. Sard receives an additional message from Tark. He activates his Nakitum for the visual message. Sard speaks out loud, saying that he will subdue all the inferiors, and he is informed that Anka is dead. His last words were for Sard to destroy the inferiors. Anka's remains are brought to the portal bays in a container. Sard will repay Anka's death in Mantari-Sojourn-The blood. The story of Khan bores Sard. 2 inferiors are with Tark on the next message. An inferior named Allsworthy, who works to send generated signals around the Urkum. An inferior, Mundi. Equaflow from the Urkum is being used. Sard is pleased that Elkin has not defied what he has ordered. He wants to be sent in a high-speed Pizzakar toward Mantari Earth at a higher speed than his own amperage, so he arrives there early, before the amperage, and be on the passageway from Mantari Earth. The Pizzakar portal is sealed. Portal locks are in place and Sard is ready. The Pizzakar rolls forward as he gains speed and heads into space. Then all communication is lost with the amperage. Loftus and John move across the desert in the Camino. It's been 57 days since the garrison doors were open. Their food sacks are down to almost nothing. Somehow Loftus knows the Bunshaf will lead him to Tabun Shah. John remembers traveling to the Nezkran long ago via the ocean, but now they are entering the desert sands. Loftus resonates. At night, the stars tell John that they are very close, but the Gwampas won't make it. They need water. John thinks that they should see the mountains by tomorrow. Loftus stares at his seamless Bunshaf. He thinks about Appleton and how he would go back there if he ever returned to Earth and just disappear. But he knows that land is another time. The sun tracks over him and the dune's stinging sands burns his skin. He has a raspy voice now as the days pass. The mountains are in the distance, but he stares at the sizzling sands on the ground as he trudges forward. The grains of sand are heated, and skin-stretched blisters are over his face and open cake wounds and cuts. Soon he falls into unconsciousness. John says it's all over, but Loftus will not give up. He hoists John up above his shoulders and carries him on his back. He fights to keep his balance, but loses his footing as he crashes down the dune and into the sand. He goes unconscious and awakens by a rectangular pool with a pale white slab. A huge Bunshaf is at the far end with the stars in the background. And then he's by a mountain pool with brown rocks and water flowing down the rocks. He sucks the water into his throat, and John is sprawled on the rocks next to him. He gets the water to John, but doesn't know where they are. And then he asks the question, are the Tabun Shah gods? They must have a knowledge of a larger picture. In the distance, he sees a city through the foliage. A dome building that must be the Noma rises above the rest of the buildings in the haze. He parallels the waterfalls with John and moves along a trail into the forest. To his right, over his shoulder, as he looks up, he sees the enormity of the falls. In the distance, a small caravan of wagons is moving along the road toward the city. He asks them if he can join the caravan. They tell him they're headed off to the city called Epic. They reach the city and enter a gray cobblestone square with a huge blue dome building. As he steps down from the caravan, they say to him, "Good fortune to you." Somehow Loftus feels an unseen power. He senses the Tabun Shah and the lost civilization. As they move along by the Noma, spaceships and helmeted warriors, locked in battle, are carved into the supports. There are images of Creods. He hears a voice who asks him, "Why are you here? You must be Ashens. Are you of the Scepter?" When Loftus answers, the voice tells him they are not of the Scepter. Loftus tells them they have crossed the Great Desert, but he doesn't believe them and says it's impossible for anyone to cross the Great Desert. He's a Tendra, and he serves the Eskas, the high priests of Tabun Shah. Gold-framed murals depict scenes from the Saba. He tells Loftus not everyone can worship. Loftus says this planet is doomed unless he finds Abashah. No one could cross the Great Desert without the help of Tabun Shah. Later, on a full stomach and clean-shaven, he is given oils by the Tendras. They move into the Noma. The dome ceiling shows warriors riding gwampuses as gray-robed individuals, the Eskers, with red sashes around their waist, move forward. They look at the bunshaf hanging around Loftus's neck. "How did you arrive here? Where did you get the bunshaf?" Loftus tells him he's crossed the passageway constructed by Tabun Shah. "You are no Esker," they said. "You have desecrated the Tabun Shah." Loftus has talked about a space invasion by the Creods and the decimation of the planet, but they haven't listened to a word he said. They don't understand how a space invasion can be fended off. More Tendras arrive to accompany he and John back outside. Loftus looks at his son and says, "I'm beginning to think this is more than just luck." A huge crowd holds torches high in the enclave across the square. A woman approaches him and stares at Loftus. Loftus asks, "Who are you?" Her name is Zuni. Loftus says he's from the Azkrans. She's a seer. Most seers died in the first millennium. Worship outside the Noma, she tells him, is forbidden. She disappears into the crowd, but John says she'll find you again. There are more enclaves outside the Noma in town. Corain is the leader of the Ashens. Zuni points out the aging and sickly Corain in the distance. Zuni has perceptive qualities. She raises her fingers to her temple. "How do you know of the Saba?" she asks. Loftus tells her that he learned about the Saber in pain and in captivity below the earth. Being with Tabun Shah after death is not in the Saba. The Semptas and the Eskas don't believe this. Corain approaches. He's very ill and will die soon. He enunciates every word slowly. He tells everyone to partake of the mystery of Tabun Shah. The Noma must be occupied. He looks Loftus over and asks him if he's the Surrey of Khan. And then he studies the bunshaf. John and Loftus are in the cool night air near the cottages as a muscular brute named Shirak gains possession of the bunshaf. Zuni comes out and tells Loftus that Corain will see him now, and she tells him that Shirak is my promissary, an arrangement made by the family. Corain has power with our people, she tells him. Corain is inside a tent under blankets with the fire blazing up through the opening in the roof. Dozens of Mantari are inside. Corain clutches onto the bunshaf. He says that he used to think he was the Surrey of Khan, but he's not. That Loftus must find Mount Abashah. In his youth, he journeyed through a vision to Mount Abashah. It is in the Saba. He looks at Loftus and tells him he's traveled far and now must climb the slopes of Abashah. Sard is in the Pizzicar. He thinks about the Galga campaign and the retreat of Tabun Shah off the home planet. Another message comes in from Tark. There is a starry screen behind him. The Mantari Proaska is gone. The humans will submit to whatever Tark gives them, simulated lives from birth until death. Sard thinks there's been too much mercy against the Mantari humans by Tark. He speaks on the 31st March 2050 and then crosses the passageway. He is detained by the Grebes, who are the gateways to the Mantari Urkhams. Tunnels can be modified. The Mantari Earth is now in total submission to the Creod. Stress cracks open in his Pizzicar. An area rips below Sard's matrices. There's pain in the back of his shell. The Pizzicar is breaking up. At Zuni's father's villa, silver fog lingers above the lake. She speaks of the wrath of Shirak. Zuni is a youthful, blonde-haired woman, full of energy. Corain says we have to get you inside the Noma. He is in and out of consciousness. Can I even go to Abishar? Asks Loftus. Shirak arrives and says that she is mine. I will beat your puny body into submission. Loftus then takes him down. They move back to Corain, who is straightened up and says that he will be brought to the Noma. He says he knows of the Tolten's brutality. Corain is carried between consciousness into the underground connection to the Noma. Tendra will meet them at the top of the stairs. Loftus and Zuni are brought into a brighter area, an area with battle depictions and a white squared altar, red sconces burning on the walls. The Tendras resonate to Taban Shah, and then Loftus begins thinking about Abishar and resonates. All the doors will be open. Saba Delikor Malukum. Candle flames dim and the image falters. Corain repeats the first millennium verse. We are all called to Abishar. Corain moves away like a train from the station as the stars brighten above, and Loftus stands next to a green pool enclosed by a white slab. The tall bunshof is at the end. It's a clear cylinder. He was once here in a vision. He lines up the light into the star reflection of the pool. With his bunshof, he somehow lines up the light of the stars into the reflection in the pool. There's a warm, numbing force. He moves inside the bunshof, moving higher and higher, upward. He sees the reflection of the bunshof and the rocky peaks reflected in the pool. He places his bunshof up top and in place into a slot. He does not see Corain, but he hears his voice. He only has half the bunshof. The Tolten is in possession of the outer sheath back in the Askrans. Loftus realizes that the pool descends into forever. He is told there will be a boat back in the harbor, piloted by a man named Jasmir. Corain is now dead. As he returns to the Noma, Zuni and Loftus quickly move with John down to the sea and the cobblestone along the docks. She sees Jasmir's boat. Docks and tents and vendors are set up as a rusty bearded man moves forward. He says he knows the trade route from a time before the Tolten. Greater forces, Loftus feels, are at work here. They will sail within the hour. Sard has arrived on Mantari Earth in pain. Tark tells him he's finally awakened after his Pizzicar broke up. Tark controls the entire planet. Sard tells him there's a massive amperage moving toward Mantari Earth. Tark has demonstrated that inferiors can be useful. He tells Sard that the Mantari passageway is warp space and dimensional way to travel. Sard does not care. The greatest battle, as predicted, is about to begin. He will seek revenge for the destruction on the home Urkham. The amperage will fill the sky upon leaving the passageway. After a raging storm, Loftus is on the boat with Zuni and John. Zuni, being the seer, tells him that his early life was spent trying to accomplish what he had to do. The good news is that they are close. The storm is gone. You must be ready, Loftus, she tells him. Ready to be the Surrey of Khan. John looks at a map of the Askrans. He tells Loftus that the attack on the Tolten to gain the bunshof must be planned well and executed quickly. John knows the area, and with the help of his old contact and guards, they can move into the gardens. His contact is Yarish. They will climb the stairs and enter the chamber. Loftus, he misses his friend Zach, and he fears a Creod attack on this planet is imminent. He wishes to face Kath and ask her why she didn't stop his descent into the Qadir. There are clouds over the treetops. and on the ever-darkening ocean. John's rendezvous is overdue at the docks in the Mead. Before the Tolten gained power, everyone traded with the Nezcrians, but the Tolten consolidated his power. John returns. Yarish has remembered him. He will bring him to the Tolten's chambers. Loftus thinks he hears one of the Creod cluster ships. They move forward into the Tolten's palace. As they ascend up the staircase, there are explosions on the upper wall. How can the ancient words be true? Asks Yarish. There's a well-trodden trail through the garden. The sky flashes green at night as the cluster ships move in. There's a large pool ahead. He tells Loftus not to fear. As they enter the upper area, huge tapestries hang from the sides, along with gold and valuable gems along the palace walls. The Tolten's voice grows louder as he approaches the room. He's shorter than Loftus. As he turns, he tells Loftus to get out of his presence. When he recognizes Loftus, he said he could have had Loftus killed for using the words of an Oryx Somes. I have seen my people die, and be open to the possibility. When Kath enters the room, she is wrinkled and has white hair. She has sunken pink cheeks and blames him for everything that's gone wrong in her life. How can he be here? And then she tells him that you left me before. You got what you deserved. Loftus tells her she's old and bitter. He brings up the fact that he needs the Cruxel. The Cruxel is critical to contacting Tabun Shah. And the Tolten tells him what is left when a man loses all his beliefs is a man who has nothing to lose. Kath is brought to the Kadea pit inside the Tolten's palace. There must be a way out of this, Loftus says. Zuni senses things deeply and tells Loftus she's not the person you once knew. She lives in pain. Everyone must face their own action. The Tolten arrives inside the large room. Loftus will get the Bunshaft, the Tolten tells him, if he lets Kath die. Kath is then dangled above the pool. John is pushed to his knees and is about to be killed by a large man with a blade. From nowhere, arrows fly through the air and attack the guards. The guards fall dead. The Tolten drops his Cruxel on the bench. Zack has returned. With Kath dangling, Zack grasps his hand out, but the strands break, and Kath is over the pit. As John cries, his mother, Kath, falls into the acid pit. He places the Cruxel around Loftus's neck. They move back outside, stunned at what just has happened. Smoke trails and blasts from the Creod silver cluster ships are hitting the area. The Tolten's fortress is hit and the spires crumble and crash to the ground. There is a crowd around Jasmir's ship as they climb the plank and jump onto the deck. Jasmir waves them all forward. Loftus says that Kath didn't deserve what happened to her. Zack looks at him, puts his hand on his shoulder and said, "Neither did you, Captain, neither did you." A huge Wascom is moving through the passageway away from Mantari Earth. Sard is looking for Tabun Shah. He's having trouble getting some of the larger pieces of the amperage into the passageway. Tark will somehow solve the vessel problem and then lay waste to the inferiors. Sard will fight them directly. Disruption of the outside planet. He senses that the Suryath Khan, predicted by the Saba, is rising.
Let him rise and be put to death.
Sard asks why the Tabun Shah are in hiding, while the inferiors die on many planets, and while others reside in chambers on Earth, under Creod control. On the vessel, crossing the ocean, Loftus thinks of Kath as he sits on the deck. It's Zuni who tells him the hordes will be defeated. She tells him that his luck is more than just luck. The smaller buildings of the epic city materialize in the haze. Zuni tells him he must go to Aba Shah. The Mantari people seek the awaited one. Crowds appear in the square and are looking to him to save their lives. They all focus on the Noma and the Aba Shah. The Camino passes the citizens and Loftus steps out and into the Noma. He moves past the carvings and the depictions on the wall. The Eskas move in a slowed cadence with him. Candles are burning and their white robes are blurred into the sun. He grabs the Cruxel in red light. As they resonate, he again is brought forth in a vision to Aba Shah. The massive Bunshoff is at the end of the pool with the starry sky in the background. He wonders about the elusive Taban Shah. He doesn't understand how the Taban Shah has ability to predict events. The large pool ahead reflects the peaks and the Bunshoff in the distance. He lifts the Tolten's Cruxel upward and sets it into place. Within a stiff, strong wind, stone extrusions appear in a valley below. There are great granite domes. He asks where he is, and then resonates. Time seems frozen. There's movement in the pale yellow glow on the huge domes ahead. Clouds cover 1,000 pulsing patches. There is a gentle response within his own thoughts. He is now part of the upper realities. You can't see the upper realities, but they're there. It's not the end, but the beginning for the Taban Shah. They tell him that he's the intervening force, that they need each other. His Bunshoff will prevent the hordes from entering the upper realities. Trust your convictions, Loftus, and follow your heart. He slowly materializes next to a small tent in the rolling hills. His clear Bunshoff is reflecting in the sunlight. Thousands of Creods are out there. He wonders about the higher reality, and how he is just an instrument in this reality, and he now knows that Sard will be destroyed by his own ambition. He must do what his heart tells him to do and trust in Taban Shah. Thousands of blue tents are spread out before him. Sard is hovered over a tactical Nakitum. With Alkan, he is waiting for the Aragosta to go through the portal and onto the passageway. They are waiting next to the portal. They have to test the portal device. Loftus is brought to Sard. Loftus looks up at his tall, massive shell and his mesh eyes. Loftus descends to his knees in homage to Sard. Sard wants to know why an inferior pays homage to Sard. Loftus says he has something that will allow Sard's fleet to enter the passageway and solve the portal problem. Sard says to bring him forward. He follows Sard. Sard says that he rewards those who are loyal.
Sard rewards those who are loyal.
Inside the Creod ship is a pungent, mustard scent that Loftus can hardly stand. He sits next to Sard with the Bunshoff in his hand. The control panel has alien lettering all over the outside. He is put into a restraining panel for security reasons. Sard maneuvers the craft around and says the strong will always win. The hatch opens up with Sard down the ramp. He wonders how the Bunshoff will open the passageway. Sard says he will defeat the Taban Shah with whatever means he has. Sard is challenged by one of his officers named Mia. Sard attacks him with a Westick and takes him down. Sard says that he has thousands of selvets. Loftus quotes the saber as the Bunshoff emits thin red pencil beams, sketching a huge archway out of nothing. The passageway expands from the planet. Sard does not forget loyalty. He puts on a Havros belt like a jetpack and flies around the area to see if the ships are truly coming through. The expanding dark shell of a ship moves through the portal now, creating shadows across the landscape. The portal is a clean, high tunnel with a bright red light at the end. Inferior selvets are hacked to death as they return to the Thasian. Most of the Creod fleet has moved onto the planet. Zuni tells Loftus to accept what is. At that time, Sard takes John hostage. Sard vaporizes the entire planet. DeLuca and the Tolten are dead. Zack says that Sard thinks that Loftus has certain powers, but the planet is destroyed, and Loftus is upset. Sard yells out, "Silence!" They have destroyed the planet, yet they have left the Urkel, the asteroid, Abishar, in orbit about the planet. Loftus is next in an Azakar with Roik, one of Sard's officers, moving toward the asteroid. There are huge power disruptions on the Urkel. The pool in front of the Bunshoff is found to be the source of the power. Shoots the ship. The Pizakar is hit and Roik gets unconscious. Foul yellow blood fills the entire area. Loftus takes control of the ship and shoots down the intruders. Sard later gives him full Selvet status. Sard is pleased with your action. You have the full title of Proaska. John and Zuni are not there, and Loftus wonders if this is the end of Taban Shah. As 3 sleep cycles go by, another Tabanshah Pizikar is hit. One of the Tabanshah Pizikars, and Roik goes unconscious. The Tabanshah amperage must be hiding somewhere. Loftus thinks back at the trail of death all the way back to San Francisco. Sard moves forward with his fleet and encounters a Tabanshah fleet using the flying Creoid ellipse. They are truly inferiors, but more ships are blown apart. They are losing salvats, disappearing, and Sard can't understand why when he's won every encounter. Maybe this is some new weapon of Tabanshah. He must destroy them. The 25 more Azakars are hit in individual dogfights, and then Roik has disappeared. Sard is wearing a new colored uniform. Instruments are realigned.
Kill them all! Get me Roik!
There is no Roik, says Elkin. They have altered everything. Sard says they need to retreat. Drain all shooter reserves to the center of their amperage. Another 60 Pizikars are gone. Elkin says he wants to surrender, but Sard orders him to fight to the death. Elkin's ship explodes, and Sard's own voice of the Vargid Garmin comes over the speaker. Loftus sneaks away from the Icean. He moves closer to get a Pizikar to go into space. He has one of the Creoid shooters now as he crawls across the floor, retracts the ramp, and gets into the Pizikar. Sard chases him away from the huge fleet. His voice cracks over the speaker.
Sard will kill you.
Green dots, depicting his vessel's course, appear on the screen. Sard's ship is closing in.
This is your final battle, Suriath Khan.
Loftus figures out what the Tabanshah has been up to. You have lost to a replica of your own fleet through time. More energy bursts at Loftus's ship. He sees the Abishar asteroid. He aligns his shooters toward the peaks and aims at Sard's long black ship. Loftus hits a direct impact and the ship moves into a tailspin and then spins onto the slab. He walks down the ramp and along the pool to the bunch-off. Sard's Pizikar remains smoldering. Sard destroys his own Pizikar, then uses the belt to fly up over Loftus. Loftus grabs a belt himself, and he and Sard are fighting above the pool of forever. Loftus grabs his own belt, and he and Sard are now dueling above the pool of forever. Sard crashes into Loftus and wraps his huge Creoid appendages around Loftus. Loftus can hardly breathe as Sard tries to tear apart his arm with his craw. The belt loosens. Loftus bangs the mesh on Sard's receptors.
You are dead, inferior.
Loftus lets his body go limp, and then he bashes Sard's open wound on his arms. Sard spirals downward into the reflective edge of the pool of forever. Loftus is standing later by the bunch-off. All pain is gone. There are ramps that extend below. His skin is now smooth where it was wounded before. He moves onto the granite dome. John waves across the valley. They want you to keep trusting in what you cannot see, he tells Loftus. Vernon Crawford appears in the distance and tells him that Tabanshah is part of the higher reality, as we all are. It's all one. The advancement brought them to the higher realities. Vernon says he can be everywhere, all at once. The Tabanshah constructed passageways to other worlds that all evolved into beings. God is the higher reality, Tommy, says Vernon. We only see the results. Loftus asks him, what is the meaning of life? It means nothing unless you acknowledge the possibility of it all. The meaning of life is choice, the meaning of existence. John says you will find peace now. Sabo Melisior Melborum. John's image fades away. Blue spots are in the haze. The emerging sun and air and atmosphere are surrounded by a haze. He is shoulder deep in a cornfield and spots Southeast Mountain in the distance. This is Appleton, Vermont, but with no development. There's a wagon pulled ahead by 2 horses and men in denim overalls. They're 1 mile from Appleton. They're wondering, where did you get them clothes? What year is this? Yells Loftus. It's June 1882. He later steps from the man's farmhouse. The man named Polsky says that he can give him some work. He's not sure what he could accomplish now with the rest of his life back here in 1882. There are cows in the field. Polsky says they're going to the grain store on Tuesday. The parade is on the 4th. I think you're going to like it here, son. It seems like your kind of place. Loftus's muscles ache from all the work he's done in the fields during the week. He's tanned and well-toned and rested. He brings the horses along the field. In the future, malls and the state highway and cars will move down this place. Chester A. Arthur is President of the United States. A July haze hung over the valley all the way to the river. They tell him that Garfield was shot on the 2nd last year. He moves up the dirt road as a band plays. This is really 1882. Loftus sips the beer and walks around the cobblestones. Tents are scattered across the green. Cigar smoke draws his attention as Zach spots him. Zach, wearing a bow tie, runs over where they shake hands and then embrace. He tells Loftus that he crossed the passageway. He's been here for a year and a half. Frank DeLuca is on the dignitary platform. John, mustache, is at the horseshoe pit. He spots Kath's yellow dress, DeLuca, and the boat. She kisses him and says, "Welcome home, Tommy." He feels an inexplicable presence. Saba Delisa Melbourne. "What does it mean?" she asks. "Follow your heart."